Here's how I unlocked infinite amount of high quality content for an online community. I'm working with Pia Silva and her team at No BS Agencies. They teach brand agency owners how to get to $30,000 a month, and they're an amazing team. They have years of content, but lots of call recordings and circle activity and posts and comments, and they also are having trouble generating content. So I had this idea that first let's just transcribe all your calls, which I'm using Assembly AI for. So as you can see, I started creating a simple transcribe strategy call scenario in Make, and it started transcribing all the strategy calls. But as you can see, there's a lot of time that I'm wasting just trying to make sure that everything works properly. This is the first time when the whole thing is going. And then even here, I needed to first locate the right folder and then the right file, and then make sure that I'm actually not replicating my work. So there's a lot of just meddling that goes into creating stuff with Make. Mind you, I never try to take care of error handling on the first try. If I get stuck, I just whip up ChatGPT and ask a couple questions very blatantly. I like fast and ugly and stupid solutions if they get me through the hiccup that I'm going through. So I just give the blueprint and ask a couple questions, and sometimes it gives me something that I can reference to. It gives me a bit of a back and forth. Maybe it just gives me an idea on how to do the error handling itself until I get unlocked, and finally the transcription can move forward in peace. This is kind of, I know it's kind of like going all in without having any foresight, but I like this kind of work because it allows me to be very impulsive, but also it unlocks my creativity. And this is where usually very unusual solutions are being born. Instead of thoroughly planning how I'm going to actually build something, I just let it unfold and just let it happen. So, and then every now and then I can just sit down and watch how things are progressing. And then every now and then I leave the computer, and then turns out that there was some runtime error or it just timed out. So I need to rebuild something. Oh, by the way, I just got an idea. Let's just do an error handling now. So this is where I usually get a bit confused about the Make's error handlers. I know it's probably an amateur mistake, but I just get confused of it. And sometimes the most blatant functions and formulas, I just don't remember them. But at least now I'm not shameful about this anymore. I can just ask ChatGPT. And at this point, I try to do the following thing. I try to create an error handling system where I actually check if the transcription already exists. And if it already exists, then it doesn't proceed, but it actually finishes the operation and goes through the next one. But that actually turned out to be a dead end because I couldn't specify the error handlers the way I wanted to in Make. So instead of doing that, what I try to do is I'm going to just create a filter and just set that only proceed if the transcript doesn't exist, which is set by the Google Doc file type in that specific folder. So now I'm checking all the files in the folder, then finding the specific people's folders, and then checking all the files in that specific people's folder. And if there is a Google Doc, then I don't care about it. I move on. If there is no Google Doc, then I just send the audio file for transcription. Now you might have quoted that in the beginning, I actually had to create a filter as well because there's a video and an audio file, and I ran out of data usage limits, or I met the data usage limit twice at Make. So instead of sending the whole video file, I decided to only send the audio file for transcription. I've been using Assembly AI for generating transcripts for quite a while. I'm really happy that they created this Make module, because before then I had to create my own way of sending a file to Assembly AI, then wait until the transcription is done and then fetch the transcription from the API. But Make does not have for loops, so I think it was like a 15 module altogether where I was using the sleep module and some loops together. It was very wasteful. There was a lot of error handling set up there. I'm fairly happy that this exists now. So let's just speed this up a bit. Make scenario stop after 45 minutes. And now I just ran out of data again. So I had to upgrade my subscription and then get going. Again, this was because in the beginning I was sending all the video and audio files. So it was bound to bite me in the ass at some. All right. So this is done. All the transcriptions have been generated. So right now I have a 70-ish calls that have been fully transcribed. These were onboarding calls with the community members, and now they're all transcribed, saved in a Google Doc with the relevant folder. Now the next step is to make sure that all the data records live in the same place, so I will be able to reference them in the future. Okay, now I need to access the database. This client manages everything in Airtable, which I love, but I'm also not very good at it. So I need to access two very different tables from two different bases in Airtable, and I need to make sure that there is a filter so I can match both. For this, I need to use the email field because that exists in both tables, but because it's synced from a source table, there is a little lightning bolt or voltage icon that needs to be added to the Airtable function. And I think I probably messed around about an hour to figure this one bit out. But once I finally figured it out, I could add also the transcript checker, which was my error handling or /filter. Now I just create a new table in Airtable, and here I'm just going to get all the contents from the two tables and the Google Doc and save everything into my newly created table in Airtable. There is a lot of error handling. There's a lot of bug fixing that needs to happen, so I just keep running and stopping and running and stopping. And at some point I also need to add a couple of these filters, but then boom, it works. Now that I have every piece of information in the same table in a database, I can actually start referencing them and generating the timelines and the narratives that will be used for content creation or content generation. Here in Google AI Studio, all I'm doing is I'm just literally copy-pasting all the content for one person into AI Studio, and I'm just playing around with the Gemini 1.5 Pro to figure out what would be the best way to structure my prompt. Then the next step is to move over to Make. For that, I'm going to use the custom app built by Synergetic. This is what I love about Make, is that you can get custom apps from others if you cannot find a module you're looking for. And I'm just trying to migrate over the prompts that I just tested out in AI Studio, but now I can reference the relevant fields instead of actually pasting them in. So now I'm both generating a few of these and also checking if the scenario is running. I'm unfortunately meeting with a bunch of errors. Turns out I need to set up a billing account. So Google Cloud billing settings, here I come. I spent God knows how long with that, but now finally all the timelines and narratives are being generated. This takes quite a while, but as you can see, sometimes the whole thing just gets messed up. So again, another error handling. Now I'm ending a router and I'm saving the timeline and the narrative separately. So get the student record, check the router. If a personal timeline does not exist, generate it. If the personal narrative does not exist, generate it, and then save subsequently. Then I created an Airtable interface where we could select the student and it would show the timeline, it would show the narrative. We don't need to actually see this for content generation, but it's good. So as you can see, it's formatted in Markdown, but Airtable interface is not showing that, but it's fine. Because right now, for every single student, I have a personalized timeline and a personal narrative. And this is how I can just take this circle community and turn it into a content machine.
Alright, this was the first build along video. This is the first of many, I hope. So don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and also tell me in the comments, what do you want me to build? I might just build it. Until next time.